At the age of just 18, Emma Coronel Aispiro's life took a drastic turn, catapulting her from the quiet confines of a small Mexican town to the dangerous world of power, crime, and unimaginable wealth. She became the wife of Joaquin El Chapo Guzmán, the most notorious and feared drug lord the world has ever known. From that moment, Emma's existence would be defined by a constant mix of love, loyalty, danger, and the kind of wealth that only exists in the world of cartels. What followed was a life riddled with luxury, prison escapes, and betrayals, an existence that made her a symbol of the narco underworld, where glamour and crime are often inextricably linked. Emma Coronel's story is one of stark contrasts. A beauty queen turned cartel queen, caught between love for a man who commanded global fear and the harsh realities of life as his wife. It is a tale of diamonds and designer clothes, but also one that includes prison breaks, hidden fortunes, and a life where the price of loyalty was far more than she bargained for. Born in Santa Clara, California on July 2, 1989, Emma Modesta Coronel Aispuro spent her early years in the mountains of northwest Mexico. Raised in the small village of La Angosta in Durango, Emma's world was far from ordinary. Her family had deep ties to Mexico's Sinaloa cartel. Her father, Inz Coronel Barreras, was a cattle rancher with rumored cartel affiliations, later imprisoned for drug trafficking. Her uncle, Ignacio Nacho Coronel, was a leading figure in the cartel and a key player in the methamphetamine trade until his death in 2010. Emma grew up in the shadow of the cartel, a family business steeped in secrecy and crime. Despite these dark ties, Emma's early life wasn't completely defined by her family's illicit dealings. By her teenage years, Emma was a stunning beauty, ambitious, and determined to make a name for herself. In 2006, at the age of 17, she entered the annual Coffee and Guava Festival pageant in Canelas, Durango. What should have been a typical pageant experience turned into something entirely different. On the night of the pageant, El Chapo Guzmán, then Mexico's most infamous and feared drug lord, appeared at her party. Rumor had it that he already knew of the Coronel family and the rising beauty queen. It didn't take long for Guzmán to become captivated by Emma. That night, El Chapo, 50 years old and at the peak of his power, asked the young Emma to dance. What started as a simple invitation turned into a fairy tale, but one laced with danger and secrecy. Just a year later, on her 18th birthday in 2007, Emma married El Chapo. She had gone from a small-town beauty queen to the wife of one of the world's most dangerous men, a man whose empire spanned across countries, generating billions from cocaine, heroin, and other illegal trades. For Emma, life as Mrs. Guzmán was a world away from her humble beginnings, but it came with a price: constant fear, secrecy, and a never-ending struggle to balance love and loyalty. By the time she was 21, Emma had become the mother of twin daughters, Imali and Maria Jainina. She was now not only the wife of the cartel's most powerful figure, but also the matriarch of a growing criminal dynasty. Her life in Culiacan, Sinaloa became a blur of luxury and high society, but with the weight of knowing her husband was always one step away from prison or death. As much as she enjoyed the glamour of being married to a drug lord, Emma was always aware that her husband's life was never predictable. Though her world was one of unimaginable wealth, Emma's life behind the scenes was far from glamorous. She faced long stretches of loneliness as her husband carried out his empire's business from a distance. But despite the distance, Emma stood by her husband, showing fierce loyalty even in the face of danger. This loyalty would be tested in 2014 when El Chapo was arrested in Mazatlan. Emma could have walked away from it all, but instead, she stood by him, supporting him as he prepared for one of the most daring prison escapes in history. Her involvement in smuggling in a GPS-equipped watch and helping plan his escape through a mile-long tunnel was legendary. For 6 months, the world's most wanted drug lord was on the run, with Emma by his side, living through the real-life version of a narco thriller. Yet in 2016, El Chapo was recaptured and extradited to the U.S. Emma's world began to collapse around her. But through it all, she stayed loyal to him, never betraying her husband and never cooperating with authorities during his trial. As his wife, Emma had access to unimaginable wealth. By the 2010s, El Chapo's empire was bringing in millions of dollars every week, and with that money came a lifestyle of luxury that most could never dream of. Emma's world consisted of private jets, designer clothes, diamonds, and luxury cars. She had a personal army of bodyguards, and trips to Europe or Asia were just another part of her daily life. Her mansion was filled with the finest things money could buy, and she frequently hosted lavish events with no expense spared. At the height of her luxury, Emma seemed untouchable, a queen of her own world. However, as the trial went on, Emma's public image only grew. She became a sensation, not just because of her husband's crimes, but because of her own charisma and poise. At the trial in New York, she was often seen in the finest designer outfits, strolling past reporters with the elegance of a celebrity, but her private life was even more extravagant. Beyond the headlines, Emma enjoyed the fruits of her husband's empire. She had mansions on every beach in Mexico, a private zoo, and a $10 million estate overlooking the ocean. However, despite all the luxury, she remained more than just a trophy wife. Emma used her own fame and connections to build her brand. In 2019, she launched her own clothing line named after El Chapo and turned his infamy into fashion. Her Instagram was filled with posts of her living life to the fullest, parachuting, skiing, riding horses, and showing off her extravagant wardrobe. Despite all of her wealth, Emma knew exactly where her husband's fortune was hidden. And many believe she controls much of the remaining assets that were never seized by the authorities. While the U.S. government managed to seize a fraction of El Chapo's wealth, many insiders believe that Emma has hidden accounts, properties under different names, and vaults filled with money, jewels, and other valuables. Some estimate that Emma could be sitting on anywhere from $500 million to over $1 billion in hidden wealth, making her one of the most powerful women in the world, at least in the world of narco wealth. In February 2021, Emma's life took another turn. As she landed at Dulles Airport in Washington, D.C., she was met by federal agents. The once untouchable wife of El Chapo was arrested, charged with helping run the very cartel her husband had once commanded. Her arrest made global headlines, with rumors swirling that Emma may have struck a deal with U.S. authorities. Though her lawyer denied these claims, the possibility of cooperation sent shockwaves through the narco world, where loyalty and betrayal are matters of life and death. Prison was a brutal change for Emma. Gone were the designer clothes and luxury trips. Instead, she spent nearly 23 hours a day in a small prison cell,